So while you were writing the book, did it take a while? Did you have time when you had patches where you just couldn't write, where nothing was coming freely? How did that work for you?
Not too much, because quite a bit of it was based on past sort of talks or retreats that I'd run, and there was a lot of material there mostly it was a sort of a gathering and organizing, because so much of it was based on my own contemplative journey. It was just a matter of trying to find a way of putting it together so that it flowed and would kind of be an unfolding journey for the reader. So that was part of it. I think for me, rather than writer's block, what I struggled with was the sort of writer's self-doubt and that wondering why I'm filling the already content-laden world with more clumsy words, and second guessing myself about that. Why would anyone want to read these funny words of mine? And often just one of the experiences was a feeling of weariness with my own words. It's and that I had to try and deal with, and I overcame it. I think again it was the recognizing the mind's voices and the stuck patterns it would get into, and learning to gently let that go and trust that the book would must find its own way out there. Sometimes the image that has helped me is just to see the book itself as kind of a butterfly that's just lifts off out of my control and will go and pollinate where it needs to, and it's not up to me to kind of drive it through, as much as just letting it go and let it do what it needs to do in the world. So that's how I've kind of dealt with those heavy second guessing voices.
Okay, and then finally, very importantly as well, in light of our pandemic right now in 2020, how would you say the people who've got your book and the people who are going to get your book, how would you direct your readers to find comfort if they're going through difficult times and emotions, financial, mental, spiritual, emotional? What would you say to the world in light of your book?
I mean, for me, the whole book sort of captures my sense of learning to recognize God's work in our lives through everything that we live through everything that comes our way. Nothing is out of place. I love, Richard Rohr has a title for one of his books, Everything Belongs. And it's that sense of learning to receive the whole of life, not just the good bits and see that as God's blessing, but to see the whole of life as having the potential for our inner transformation. Something I found incredibly helpful is to start to realize that God is continually tending our souls through everything that comes. And so for me, this book is kind of about helping people to find almost a literacy in being able to recognize that, how God could be tending my soul even in this, and how can I learn to then participate with that, because to me it's always a dance of the grace of God working in our lives through life as it is, not through life as I wish it would be, but then the dance is that grace is happening, but we need to learn to participate with it. Otherwise we resist it, and in that sort of fight we don't grow in the way that we could. And so for me, there's a chapter in the book of looking at the dance of grace and participation, and how do we move with this work that God is doing in our lives already through through these things. And that for me is what contemplative living means, is being able to kind of open to whatever possibilities are flowing into our lives all the time that have the potential for our growth and transformation. But there are a few chapters in the book that kind of especially talk about difficulties. Part 6 of the book is called Transforming Our Pain, and it looks at suffering and woundedness as paths for us to journey deeper into this transformative process. And throughout the book, there are references to transformation through loss and difficulty, using metaphors like the metamorphosis of the butterfly, and of course the death-resurrection cycle that is so core to Christianity. And the last chapter of the book for me was actually quite an important realization. It's called Hope Beyond the Death of Hope. And those times where we feel like we've lost hope, where we've come to an end of our own abilities to fix our lives or manage the future, or when we get to that point of utter despair and loss of our own agency, that's when there's a hope, a resurrection kind of hope that can start to emerge for us and show us that life is possible through the most devastating of losses, that there's this kind of profound life-giving hope that we can emerge into, but only when we do come to that place of the death of sort of
it's very
optimism,
very deep, very profound.
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon, what I found listening to you is an enormous amount of value for people for right now, and the hope that you're giving us, and that God will hold us through this, and life during and after COVID's not going to be easy for many people. But the courage that I'm hearing from you is that we know we're being held in this time.
Absolutely.
We know we're being held.
Yeah, that's for me has been such a strong theme, and it does come through the book quite a bit, that sense of one of my favorite scripture passages is, underneath are the everlasting arms, and that's just a never-ending assurance, of, I love the everlasting. It's unconditional, unboundaried, expansive, tender holding of our lives in God. And yes, that is the case for us now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. So I'm wanting to put this out to people. For those who've read your book, now's a good time to read it again. I personally have read it 3 times, and probably going to go and read it again in light of what you've said now this afternoon. So thank you very much, Sharon, for your encouragement and your hope and your unfolding journey that you've shared with all of us.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Thank you.
Okay.